Shalom, Kahalaya Hawa, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kokodash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, through the house of David, reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the Hebrew High Holy Day of Purim. Now, today, on the 15th of February, it's the first of 2 nights of the Purim celebration. Okay, the pagan counterpart to this would be Valentine's Day, which America has just celebrated. But again, this is another way that you can recognize when our high holy days are. There tends to always be a pagan holiday that it comes up against. Okay, so in this case, Purim tends to land in February. Now, before we read into what Purim is, let's read this. This is Jeremiah 16:6-16. Thus saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. You see, so ultimately, we are supposed to be asking for the old paths, right? The old ways which we came up in. Especially now, as it tells you in Jeremiah, 17:4. That it says here, it says Jeremiah 17:4, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled the fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. So you see, so in our current state, as Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline, see, we've lost our true ancestral heritage. And with that comes the old paths and the understanding of what Purim is, right? Purim, if you're unfamiliar with the story of Esther, it is actually the story how the Lord saved the nation of Israel from the hands of an Edomite, right, named Ammon, or as he's referred to in the apocryphal editions of Esther, Haman, right? The thing is when you read this, and we're going to basically read chapter 9, which goes into, for the most part, the declaration of Purim, and it gives a little bit of the backstory. But the whole synopsis of this is when the Persian king, when this guy here, when you watch the movie 300, this is Xerxes, okay? And he basically had chosen Esther to be his new queen, right? Esther being an Israelite, right? And she had ultimately found out that Haman, an Edomite, or as he's referred to in the Bible as an Agagite, which is simply the Edomites of the top tribe of Agag, right, or who you would call today as a so-called Jew, right? He had plotted to come up with a scheme so that way he would trick the king the king Xerxes into killing off all the Israelites, right? And but ultimately, through divine intervention and the Lord leading Esther and her uncle Mordecai, she was able to save the nation of Israel. Okay, so this is just one of the stories of the Lord delivering Israel out of certain death, by the hands of Agag, right? These Edomites, right? And because of that, there's a celebration which is commanded for us to keep called Purim. Right? And as it tells you here, it says the Hebrew Israelite feast of gladness and gifts. Well, let's go and read. Well, actually, before we read into it, let's get a little bit more into what Purim is. Okay, so when you get into Purim, it's pronounced Pawam, right? And you can look up the word. It's H6332. It's a day of gladness. Also, it's known as the Feast of Gladness and Gifts. And ultimately, it's 2 days of rest and feast, basically, right? And like I said, it commemorates the deliverance of the Israelites from the wicked Edomite Haman by returning his trap upon him and his 10 sons, right? Because you see, what ultimately happened is this devil, Haman, this Edomite, had designed, like I said, a scheme to trick the king Xerxes into killing off the Israelites because they wouldn't follow the laws which Xerxes had set up. Well, Haman had set up these gallows, which is basically these things you hang people on, and he had designed those for us Israelites. But ultimately, as the Lord usually does, he turns the trap that our enemy sets upon our enemies, right? And ultimately, Haman and his 10 sons were hung upon these gallows. Well, let's go and read. Well, actually, we're not going to read these Esther scriptures because we're going to read the entire chapter in just a bit. But let's go and read some of the details about Purim when it comes to the day. So again, if you understand the breakdowns of the new moons and the Sabbaths, you understand that the apostles have declared the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Right? You can go down here, you can see, right, Adar, the 12th month. Well, it was declared, this is the 12th new moon that was declared for the year on January 31st, 2022, right? This makes Monday to Tuesday evenings. This is currently the Sabbath which we are in right now, or the month of that we are celebrating, right? Basically, the Sabbath for this month is Monday through Tuesday, right? Now, that goes on, I believe, until March 2nd. Well, continuing, now that we know that Adar started on January 31st, right? You got here, let's zoom in real quick. You got January 31st at night, evening, right? When it goes in, right? From night to the midday, that's the first day of Adar, right? And that, again, it starts in the morning of February 1st, goes to the night of February 1st, and then it goes into the day of February 2nd. So that would be the first day, second, third, and it goes all the way to the 8th, which is the next Sabbath, and so forth, right? Well, the 14th day, which would be the second Sabbath, or which would basically be Monday night, right? February 14th to February 15th, which is where we are. We just finished the night right now, right? Because right now, which is the second night, right? We're basically in the second day of Purim, right? February at 10:15 at night, which is my time here in California, until 6 o'clock tomorrow, right? Which is going to be February 16th. Now, so these 2 days are days which we're supposed to, these are the general observance points, right? It tells you, so start on the 14th day of Adar in the evening. It says, so basically read Esther chapter 9 during Purim ceremony. That's what we're going to do right now. Make a feast on these 2 days of Purim. So again, you don't have to go all crazy, but have something good to eat. Treat yourself, right? If you can, that is, right? And then give gifts on these 2 days of Purim. With me and my lady, I just got her some flowers. Got her some of the things that she likes from the market. Nothing too crazy. Again, right? Write a letter to a loved one of peace and truth. And again, this is just a recommendation. This is not biblical, but something that it'd be nice to do, because again, you are supposed to give gifts, and remember, you write something to somebody, right? Remember, that Yahweh Bashem Hashai fights only for Israel. Okay, so you got to remember that in the story of Esther, when the Lord, when it seems like we are gonna be destroyed, the Lord always steps in for us, right? And Purim is just another example of the Lord's mercy upon our nation. Next, the scriptures that you could kind of read are pretty much all in Esther chapter 9, right? 9:26, 9:27, 9:22, and 9:21. So that being said, let's go ahead and read the book of Esther and see how Purim came into being. So this is Esther chapter 9 verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them, right? And this execution that it's talking about is that Haman, like I said, he had tricked King Xerxes into ultimately putting to death all the Israelites, right, in the town or in the countries of King Xerxes, right? That's the plan that was about to be put into execution. Continuing, verse 2. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, and this is King Xerxes basically, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and the officers of the kings helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. And when you read the story, Mordecai, like I said, is the uncle of Esther, and he himself actually foiled a plot to kill the king, where he was going to be poisoned by Haman's, gay assistants, basically, right? His lovers and stuff like that. So that's why Mordecai had the favor of the king. Continuing, for Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the province. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Right? Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan, the palace, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men. The Pershhandatha, and Dolphan, and Aspatha, and Poratha, and Adalia, and Aradathia, and Parmathata, and Arisha, and Aradai, and Urazatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hands. So basically they just killed those people, man, but they didn't take any of their money, to show you, man, that this was done to kill them and not ultimately to rob them. It says, on that day the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day, also on on the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Jews that were in the king's province gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. And on the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions, right, basically presents, one to another, right? Portions could be, like I said, letters, packages, presents, that type of stuff. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all Jews that were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this amongst them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same, yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day. And they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, right, the Amalekite or Edomite, the enemy of all Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. But then Esther came before the king. He commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name Pur. Therefore, for all the words of the letter and of that which had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seeds, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and that these days of Purim shall not fail from amongst the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seeds. All right, so that basically means we are all to keep this month. This is a high holy day. Then Esther, the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, the words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according to Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoyed them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matter of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. And so there you go. That is the 9th chapter of Esther, which actually goes on in when you go into the Apocrypha, the additions to Esther, I believe goes on for about 19 up to chapter 19, right? So they basically removed 10 chapters of the book of Esther, which when you read the editions of Esther, it makes it more blatant who these who Haman was, right? Now, and also just it gives a lot more details. But again, there goes the whole synopsis of pretty much why Purim is celebrated today, today and tomorrow, right? Because again, it is to commemorate how the Lord saved us Israelites from the hands of these wicked Edomites, right? And just like the proverb says, man, Proverbs 26-27, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. And that's what happened to Haman and his 10 sons, man. And those devils are more likely back today, and they're right here. They're the same elites of the society who are setting up all these NWO, agendas, Agenda 21, and all these buzzword, underhanded agendas that we keep talking about, which are going to ultimately, backfire and is going to cause these devils to be put to death, right? Well, again, it happened in the past, and it's going to happen again in the future. The Lord is going to turn these devils' their own snares upon themselves, and it's ultimately going to cause their own destruction. So with all that, hopefully this video was edifying. Until the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Rakok Radash. Until the next time, Makim, Shalom.